CEO, Chris Valenzuela.
The program will begin in 10 minutes.
Here we go, Jason. Good evening and welcome to Bloomberg Screentime. Please join us in the studio for our very first session of the evening, featuring Runway CEO Chris Valenzuela. Show starts in just 10 minutes. See you there. Good evening and welcome to Bloomberg Screentime. Please join us in the studio for our very first session of the evening, featuring Runway CEO Chris Valenzuela. Show starts in just 10 minutes. See you there.
Please take your seats. The program will begin in 5 minutes.
Good evening, everyone. Please join us in the studio for our session featuring Runway CEO Chris Valenzuela. Show starts in just 5 minutes. See you there. Good evening. Our show in the studio is about to begin. Please join us for our session with Chris Valenzuela. You won't want to miss it. Thank you.
Please take your seats. The program is about to begin.
Please welcome to the stage Bloomberg's Shireen Ghaffari.
Hello, Los Angeles, and welcome to Bloomberg Screentime. We're thrilled to be back. I'm Shireen Ghaffari. I'm an AI reporter for Bloomberg and the writer behind Q and AI, our AI-focused newsletter that seeks to answer the many questions Bloomberg readers have about this new era of intelligence and emerging tech and in turn, its impact on human life. If you don't already, subscribe to Bloomberg Q&AI if you can quickly scan the QR code on the screen above. And speaking of QR codes, you'll see a few tonight and tomorrow on various stages, including the one on the screen behind me. Take out your phone and scan it now. We wanted to stay true to the Q&AI name and let you all ask some questions during this next session. To do that, you'll jump to the Q&A icon at the bottom of the screen to submit your question to participate in the conversation. I promise I'll do my best to get to as many as possible in my interview with Chris Valenzuela, the CEO of Runway. You're about to watch a demo of Gen Alpha 3, Runway's innovative text-to-video AI that is changing the film industry in real time. It'll be led by Chris, but I'll be returning to the stage following his presentation to ask him my and your burning questions. Please enjoy, and I'll see you soon.
Please welcome to the stage Cristobal Valenzuela, CEO and co-founder of Runway.
Hey everyone. So the video you just saw is all generated by Runway. And today I want to show you a little bit more of the behind the scenes of how you can make those kind of videos. I'm sure many here have seen AI videos before, but many perhaps have not actually generated a video on their own. So hopefully this will contextualize a bit more how you can actually make videos today with Runway. And so I'll walk you through the basics of how to create videos with AI. And perhaps the most common one is, and the most well-known is text to video. So it's a very simple way of creating a video where you basically take a text prompt. I'm sure you've used some AI model before that requires a text prompt. And that text prompt gets interpreted by our model and then renders a video in any arbitrary length of duration of the video itself. And so the first video that I'll show here is basically that. It's text to video. I'll write in something, in this case, a prompt, and the videos that you see here are completely generated and are following the prompts that I gave the model. So close-ups of people, of actors, of specific shots, of animals. I can play with cinematic styles, with different characters, with infinite and perhaps impossible cameras like this, fly-throughs through skies, through clouds. These are all high-definition videos, and they do take like between 14 to 15 seconds to render, which is extremely fast and probably will go faster over time. Human emotion is one of the things that the model does really well, as well as like surreal movements, or shots like that, like a flying goat. All of that is generated. So all of that is driven by nothing more than a text prompt. But in filmmaking is really about making you feel something, making you attach yourself to a story, feel the emotional impact of a story, and text sometimes is not enough. And actually don't think text prompts are here to stay for a long time. I don't think you can make movies with text prompts. And so a lot of what we have been innovating has been on creating more control tools. And so I want to show you what other control tools you can have to make videos with Runway and with AI beyond just text prompts. And so another one that's very common these days is this idea of using an image as a reference. So that's a real photo of New York, and I can define the kind of movement and motion that I want. I can take an initial shot of a frame, a first frame, or a frame from an animated shot, or a frame from a moving car, and have the model kind of like predict what will happen next. And that's great because I can define the cinematography, the art direction, the style of the shot itself with much better control. I can use real images, I can use images I have, and I can play with the composition of those images in a much more better way than just text alone. And I can also do something like this, which I can take existing video and then render it with generated video. So the backgrounds of all the shots here are completely generated. And this might be similar to visual effects. Perhaps that's the most common way of referring to it. You take existing footage and you combine it with CGI videos to make effects basically like this. Now, the only difference is that this takes a couple of seconds to make. Other forms of control beyond text prompts include video. So in this case, I can input a video, an existing video that I have recorded of myself or anything in the set or anything that I have, and turn it around in a different style or in a different character or a different direction artistically. Again, with much better control. I can define camera movements in the way that I prefer. I can define much more action-driven elements or actors in ways that are much more concise or precise to my artistic or creative directions. And it's also just very fun to play with, specifically with these kind of videos. Animation has been one of the things that we've been investing a lot of time. Perhaps you know why, because it's extremely hard to make animation, extremely expensive, and these tools are here to basically take that cost a little bit down. And the last form of control that I want to show you is something of a kind of like a sneak peek of something we're working on that takes the idea of using a driver's or an actor's performance really to the next level. So you'll basically see two videos. You see a video on the left, that's a real video, that's a performance of an actor reading a script, and the video on the right is completely generated.
So let me get this straight. You came all the way down to the Department of Motor Vehicles and didn't bring your driver's license? Do I understand that correctly? You're gonna have to go in the separate line for processing.
So the interesting part here is that you can maintain the performance and the emotion of the actor and translate that almost in a real-time basis to the character on the left. And so that's a sneak peek of some of the ways you can generate video with Runway. And that's a small demo of Runway for today. Thank you. Hey, nice to meet you.
All right, wasn't that cool? Another round of applause for Chris and Runway's Gen Alpha 3. Let's dig right in. Chris, thanks so much for being here and speaking with us today. I'm excited to have this conversation because it's incredible how far AI has come in the past several years in terms of being able to create really high quality videos. It wasn't so long ago that I remember, and probably you all do too, how AI struggled to even create realistic hands. And now I can't tell the difference. Chris, I know you have an art school background. I'm really curious to hear a little bit more about how you got at the intersection of AI and video and what it's been like to build a company during this time of really rapid innovation.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I do have a background in arts, and actually we got started with the company while being in art school. And we were fascinated at the time, this was like 8 years ago, but what neural networks were able to do. It was a breakthrough moment, I would say, mostly inspired by the last like 10 or 15 years. But I think we realized back then was that there wasn't really a lot of thought being put into how to use these models in creative avenues or creative directions. And so a lot of what we had to do early on was, well, how do we actually do that? And now it seems obvious. Now you can see these videos and they look amazing. It's really a form of creative expression and liberation that's empowering many creatives to do many interesting and amazing things. But 7 years ago, it was not really that the case. And many people thought, I think we were crazy when we showed them like what we're trying to do. And I think for us, over the last, I would say, year and a half, there's definitely been a change in both perception, industry-wise, in terms of what the models are able to do, and also challenges and opportunities. But I think for us, at least, it's never been that like today feels like extremely different from how it felt like, I guess, a couple of years ago, and probably won't be different as how we want to really feel in the next couple of years, because there's still a long way to go, and we're basically betting on that very long-term strategy. I've always think of the videos and the kind of things that AI can do these days as a new medium. For me, it's a new camera. And I keep saying this repeatedly because I think it perfectly encapsulates this idea of a medium of expression that will create a new art form. But it still feels we're in the very, very beginning of that new camera and the new art form. And so there's still a long way to develop.
So runway AI is real, right? It's out there. I tried it today. And your tools have been used in major films like Everything Everywhere All at Once, music videos for artists like A$AP Rocky, TV programs like Stephen Colbert's The Late Show. And you recently closed a major deal with Lionsgate to build a custom model trained on their work. We also have an audience question I see about this. Great minds think alike. What does the Lionsgate deal mean for this industry, and how is the partnership going?
Yeah, so it's a one-of-a-kind deal that we announced very recently, where we have been working with the Lionsgate team to help them both, two things. One, understand how to best incorporate this into their production kind of like pipelines and workflows. And that means working directly with the talent, the editors, the VFX supervisors, helping them understand how this can empower them. And the second one is a lot of how you best use these models is by the data they use to train the models themselves. And so we've been training the model specifically with their catalog of data that they can use to better make the content that they need to make. So hopefully it's something we're working on for quite some time. And so finally being able to speak about it has been great. And I think it's a great step forward in the industry, recognizing that, I mean, cinema and Hollywood and filmmaking has always been about science and technology, and those two things really go hand in hand. And now's the time to have more of those conversations.
So there's a lot of competition in the area of AI video, right? We have OpenAI announcing Sora this year. Meta recently released its own text-to-video model. But these tools from the other companies aren't public yet in the same way that runways are, right? Why do you think that is? How have you been able to get a quicker start? And how do you deal with the fact that these major companies with lots of resources are going after the same kind of use cases?
Well, I think we got to first start because we started working on this like 8 years ago. So I think it's been more of like we keep seeing more people kind of like understanding that this is worth spending time on. And I think when you create a category, when you create a market and we show that there's a lot of value in there, you'll have competition. I think it's impossible to think that if we succeed at building what we're building, you won't attract competitors to try to do exactly what you're doing. And I think we're seeing kind of like that. Now, there's a lot of research demos, and there's a few products. And so that's a good distinction to state. Research is great to highlight kind of possible applications and capabilities, but putting a product in the hands of like real artists and filmmakers is a whole different thing. And I think for us, it's always been around the latter, which is making sure that these models not only do the kind of stuff that you just saw, but also become really useful. And that means as a product builder, you need to understand what things need to be improved, what things need to be changed, and how you continuously improve those things more than just generating a video. Because again, if you ever try to make a video with text prompts just on its own, that's never gonna actually work fully to the extent that you want as a creative. And so you need way more than just like single text prompts.
Yeah, that's actually related to another question I had, which is when you look at the output of something like a music video that was made in part with Runway, or even a feature-length film where the tools are being used, what % right now would you say of that final product is using the Runway technology?
It's a gradual like progression. There's use cases where we've seen like videos entirely made by Runway, or they're generated, and some others that are like mixing live action with animated with AI content. But truly, I think this goes back to like what I was speaking before, which is films and music videos and like feature films or short films have never been around how you make them. Technology takes a second like stage in that kind of like idea of films are really about stories. They're about making you feel something, right? And so you never watch a movie because how it was made. You watch a movie because it's a good story. And so eventually we want to make sure that if you want to make something, you can use our tools and our technology to help you get there. But at some point you won't have to tell or say to the world that you've used AI or you haven't used AI because it doesn't matter. And I think that's kind of the long-term aspect of how where we want to go.
How are you and your customers measuring success? Do you have examples of where there's been big cost savings? Are you thinking about it in terms of different kinds of creativity it can unlock? How do you measure what is success with Runway?
I mean, success for us is that we help make more movies and we help tell more stories. We have our unofficial stated mission is that we want to, the best stories are yet to be told, and we want to make sure we can help tell those stories in the world. And so success for us is that more people can make more stories. If you have a budget of $100 million to make one movie, I think you should make 100 movies with that budget. And so how we measure success now, tactically, specifically as well, if you're starting or speaking with a screenwriter and they're spending hours and days and weeks trying to create a storyboard of their work, Now they can just do it in like a few minutes. And so the iteration cycle becomes like extremely short. If you're working with a VFX artist and they're spending weeks and months iterating on rotoscoping or creating visual effects like they want to show you, like you shouldn't. You should hopefully make those in just a few seconds. And so those are just, the benefit is just time. You reduce the time you are spending on these rote, repetitive tasks, and you free that time for much more creative, liberating, and exciting things. And I think that's the ultimate measurement of success.
Any examples that you can share from partners that have been able to save money using Runway?
Yeah, so I was, we're chatting with this screenwriter who's working on a new show. The first season was a hit. And what he does is like, you're sitting there at the computer, you're writing, and you're kind of visualizing this world that you want to play between characters, right? But then there's a lot of decisions that you make in pose or where you're shooting in set that were in regards to like the timing of the scenes and where you put characters. And so, and it was a surprise for me because I never thought about it, a use case like this before, where now while he's writing, he's able to render those stories and visualize them. So that helps himself edit the story better. And so the story doesn't have to wait to like production stage to be edited. It can actually be, the story itself and the script can be edited almost as he's writing it itself because he's able to visualize it. And so that in itself, I think long-term, if you compound, there's many processes and tasks where you can find tools and AI systems that can help streamline that in significant ways.
So I've talked to independent filmmakers who are really excited about AI for the reasons you just described, right? It can lower kind of the barrier to entry, save them time, money. Obviously, studios also see the potentials there. But there's also a lot of pushback, right? In the last 2 years, we've seen the major actors and writers unions make this a key point of their negotiations over contracts, and just general, I think, fear about what this will mean for creative people. Will this replace their jobs or commoditize them? What do you make of that? What do you say to the artists who are scared of this technology?
I think a lot of the fear sometimes stem from like not having the experience or the chance of like understanding the technology fully. Again, these systems don't create movies on their own. They're not agents that just go around and make things that we suddenly like, right? They're tools. They're tools for humans. And they're tools for artists. And so you need to know how to leverage that tool. And if you think about the history of cinema, that's been basically the case forever. 150 years ago, the camera was invented, and the art world went in like revolution because they thought art was going to be dead. Why would you need to paint portraits if you can capture light with a camera? So we're dead. Like there's no more need for artists. That was actually the narrative going on around at the beginning of the century. And of course, that didn't happen. What actually happened was that filmmaking was very inspired by painting at the beginning, but also painting got a lot of inspiration from filmmaking and cameras, and painting itself liberated as an art practice beyond the portrait and like depictions of the things that were depicted at the time into a much more complex like kind of like field. And eventually filmmaking was evolved into a new art form. And many of the people that we have here in the city today, 150 years ago would have been impossible to imagine, to even think about having them as professionals and artists, as something you can do in your day-to-day. And so for me, this is similar, and that's why I come back to the analogy and metaphor of the camera. Because if you think of AI as a camera, you can take two positions. You can be, this is exactly how we've lived before, and this is a new medium, and you can take it and understand it and mold it, and there's a new language, and there's a new things you need to discover. There's new artists going to be born out of this. There's new media. Or you can fear it, and you can think that this is the end of the world. I prefer the first one.
I'll take another audience question. What's the next frontier for training data? What happens when we reach the limits of human content and data to train on?
Well, that's a good question. It's hard to tell if there's ever going to be a limit, to be honest. We can keep capturing new data all the time. You can keep improving the models. I don't think we've hit like ceiling on the amount of data that you can ingest into the systems. There's so many new and like innovations from synthetic data, from like capturing data. There are companies building like devices just to capture data around environments. I think it's still very early, and at least for us, we're training what we call world models. So world models is just another fancy way to say simulation. So you're trying to build these simulation systems. And simulation can have all sort of different data points, from text, from video, from audio, from 3D. And so it's still very early, and I think we have a long way to go.
What are your biggest concerns? This is also from the audience and related to a question I have around, what are your biggest concerns about leveraging AI responsibly? And I especially want to ask about deepfakes, which is a big area of concern. We have an election coming up, right? What are the rules around that with Runway, and how do you think the industry should be handling that?
I think, again, we can look back at like other previous moments in like history where we've seen similar evolutions of technology. And even with, again, I'll repeat, but like with cameras, people were afraid that like both privacy will be like destroyed and people will be recording things that they shouldn't be recording. And the truth is that maybe that's the case, but we've collectively built norms around how to use a camera, right? What to shoot and what not. It's illegal to record people without their consent. So you can, as a society, come up with what are the rules and the norms that you should have when approaching a technology. And I think this is similar. This is a new technology. It's amazing. It's extremely useful. It's liberating. It's going to change a lot of things, but it's a technology. And we should think about it in the similar ways we've thought about it with other technologies, even the internet. It's an amazing place. Like the internet has changed the world for good. Of course, there are things that are bad on the internet, but we've collectively agreed what are those things, and we put like restrictions on them. I think with AI, we should take a very similar approach, which is it's still very early. We should understand what is the scope of what we can do, and then have that kind of like mindset of like making sure that the norms and the regulations address the misuses, but don't focus too much on the innovation itself. Like we don't need to stop innovation right now because, again, it's still too early.
Runway's primarily, a video tool platform right now, but does it have plans to extend into other areas? I see a question here about maybe gaming, interactive experiences.
So, and this maybe touches back on what I was saying before about like new media formats. We don't see ourselves as a video company. Like that's perhaps what we're most well known for today, and the videos you're seeing are videos, right? But I think of those as pixels, so just moving pixels. And pixels can have many different like forms of being like consumed or used or created. And so if that's the case, and you consider also the additional kind of like idea that you're going to get to a point where you can generate like pixels on a real-time basis, then you're going to have something that doesn't feel like a film, that doesn't feel like moving pictures, and it doesn't feel like a video game either. It feels like something else. And I don't think we have the words to describe what that thing is, because we haven't experienced it yet. But imagine a world where you start watching something, and as you're watching, you're generating the next kind of like sequence of events. You can label that a video game. I think we are going to label that something else. And our goal is to get there, to build these models that can predict basically those frames and help you create that content in a real-time basis.
Will it be in the metaverse?
Maybe that's one way of describing it. I feel like it will be something else. And people didn't have the word to describe cameras at the beginning of the century. They used to refer to them as mirrors with memories. And I think we're still using the language of filmmaking to describe this new thing, but we'll have to collectively figure out how we call it.
How do you handle the ownership of content? And I'm really curious also about, does that change for something like the Lionsgate partnership, where it's trained on their films, right? Versus me as a user, I sign up, I do something on Runway, make something. Who owns that?
I mean, you own it. You are a human creator using technology. So you can use a pen, you can use a paintbrush, you can use a computer, you can use Runway. Who's the creator of all those things? You as a creator. I think that doesn't change that like argument, because you're still pretty much in control. I think the only time it changes is when you think of the systems as non-human entities, right? And I think that's another philosophical conversation, right? Where is AI able to own content? I don't think AI is able to own content. People are able to own content and copyright content themselves. And so it goes back to like thinking about this as a tool more than anything else.
So right now, if I make a video on Runway, I own the rights to that.
Of course, you made it.
Okay. Do you think audiences will enjoy AI-generated films as much as they do non-AI-generated movies?
I think, I hope that at some point you won't have to make a distinction, right? Like when you watch David Fincher movie, it's full of CGI, and you don't think of that as a generated movie, right? It's a great movie, it's a great story, it looks like a live action, and you just like it. You're never asking yourself, how did they make that shot that looks, and do I like that versus this one that was real or generated? Like, who cares? It's great, it's a great story, and it was greatly made. And so I hope that we get to a point where like you don't have to distinguish between how it was made, you just focus on the story itself, and AI becomes like another tool like anything else we have.
I want to get your prediction for the years to come in AI and film. When do you think we'll be seeing our first 100%, or let's say over 90% AI-generated movie that is either a box office hit or wins an Oscar?
Next year.
Next year. Okay, I'm going to hold you to that.
Our internal other goal is to win an Oscar. So as a toolmaker. So there's the Academy Awards for achievements, for technical achievements, and I hope we can, again, if we help tell more stories, I think that's a good measure of success.
All right. Well, thank you so much for talking to me. That was a great conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Before we go, we have a special treat, and it is going to be, actually, sorry, I'm going to invite Chris back on stage because he needs to talk about this a little bit. I will leave you in suspense for a special encore from Chris.
We're talking about movies.
That's right.
Yes.
We're talking about movies.
We've been, for the last 2 years, we've been running this film festival, both in New York and in LA, that basically highlights and celebrates artists who are at this new frontier. And so this year, we partnered with the Tribeca Film Festival, for example, to showcase some of the frontier-like films or filmmakers that are using AI to tell their stories. And so we're now working for next year. So if anyone here wants to learn more about that, now's the time to learn more about that festival. But we also have a few of the films to show, so you can get a sense of what real artists are using this technology for and how good those stories are.
Great. Potential Oscar nominees, right, for next year. All right. Thanks so much.
This story is simple. Another tune within a set of radio stations. Thoughts that blur, moments that don't occupy my mind. I simply don't care. My words come from silence, from encounters with nothingness. I have a broken silence. An identity thief.
Back at headquarters.
An erased past. I'm not afraid of loneliness. I haven't been and haven't arrived.
I lost my grandma. But I wonder, where do grandmas go when they get lost? Maybe they just walk with the other lost grandmothers to a secret land? A place so far away that even our maps cannot find it. Over there, our little grandmothers grow as big as the story they used to tell us. Then, they become so strong and so tall that they transform into beautiful trees. big icebergs and giant mountains. Sometimes they also turn into cozy houses. But I heard someone say that the truth is they change into dust. I'm not sure. Maybe they also do that. I'm not an expert. All I know is that, in the end,
in 10 minutes.
Flex up, stretch out, big bands, whoa, whoa. Flex up, stretch out, big bands, whoa, whoa. Flex up, stretch out, big bands, whoa, whoa. Flex up, stretch out, big bands, whoa, whoa, whoa. 6Bs, Bentleys, APs, that shit like 2-piece, FNs, red dots, truck your yacht. I was buying Birkins at 18, that's why she don't mind the beats, fucking me. Flex up, stretch out, big bands, whoa, whoa. 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 Bitch, you get no murders on me. Bitch, you get no murders on me. Go tell the cops. I bet you get no murders on me. Bitch, you get no murders on me. Get no murders on me. Go tell the cops. I bet you get no murders on me. Bill poppers, hit doctor, she swallow it up. Whoa, whoa, flip flop, drop top, pop out, photo roll. Bill poppers, hit doctor, she swallow it up. Whoa, whoa, gotta make my haters mad, give them something to talk about. Take a bit from South of France, push her back to Waffle House. Murder on the case, I had to spaz, fuck the dog style. I don't know how to be a normal nigga, one thing I forgot. Flex up, stretch out, big band, whoa, whoa. Flex up, stretch out, big band, whoa, whoa. Flex up, stretch out, big band, whoa, whoa. Flex up, stretch out.
Please take your seats. The program will begin in 5 minutes.
It's fine, it's cool. You can say that we ain't nothing, but you know the truth. And guess I'm the fool with their arms out like an angel through the car sunroof. I don't wanna call it off, but you don't wanna call it love. You only wanna be the one that I call baby. 'Cause 100 boys in Mars shoot another shot to stop the feeling. You could say it's just the way you are. Make a new excuse, no stupid reason. Go away.
Please take your seats. The program is about to begin.
Call it
Please take your seats. The program is about to begin.
Realize every moment won't be perfect, but I do. Enjoy all the mistakes that I made with you. With you. You do, you do, you do. You've got a life. You've got a life. You've got a life. Stay in it. You've got a life. You've got a life. You've got a life. Stay in it. Always run into rain. Knows opioids don't heal your pain. Your pain. You've got a life. You've got a life. You've got a life.
Please take your seats. The program is about to begin.
Coming to you live in Riley's mind. Make some noise!
Skydance Media set to become the new owner of Paramount by mid-2025.
What is happening?
Amazon is making a 3-year, $100 million bet.
Another week, another dominating performance by the Chiefs defense.
Please welcome to the stage Bloomberg's Lucas Shaw.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the opening night of Bloomberg Screentime. Thank you for being here. Thanks to those of you watching online as well. They just said it, but my name is Lucas Shaw. I work with a team of very talented journalists covering the business of pop culture at Bloomberg. I'm also the author of the weekly newsletter Screentime, which is how the event got its name. My colleagues and I have spent the last few months putting together a really great lineup of speakers. We got some chefs, we got some musicians. You'll enjoy it all, hopefully, over the next 24 to 36 hours. When we were here a year ago, strikes had paralyzed Hollywood, in particular, the film and television business. Unfortunately, I would say over the last year, that sort of existential dread that has been in Hollywood has seeped through most of the businesses that we cover. You have the video game industry in the midst of its worst year of layoffs ever. 2 of the 3 big record labels have restructured in the last few months. And one of the biggest social media apps in the world could be banned in this country before the end of the year. But despite that uncertainty and anxiety, we have never spent more time or money entertaining and informing ourselves. So the average American spends nearly 7 hours watching video every day. You add onto that music, podcasting, video games, theme parks, concerts, which we're about to talk about, and we spend more time with media than we do doing anything, even sleep. So that's a big opportunity. We're going to spend the next couple days talking to some of the people responsible for the biggest cultural moments of the year. That's the Olympics, Baby Reindeer, the new Beyonce album. That got a whoop in practice too, so I'm glad you did it. Tonight, so we start with the CEO of the biggest live events company in the world, Michael Rapino from Live Nation. We're going to talk about the WNBA with Clara Wu-Tsai, whose team starts in the WNBA Finals, I think, tomorrow, and Candace Parker, WNBA legend. We'll talk to Mike Hopkins, who's in charge of all things film and television at Amazon. And then we'll close things off with Snoop Dogg, who is just about everywhere right now. Before we get started, a few announcements. I want to thank our sponsors, starting with our presenting sponsor, AWS. And our participating sponsor, Disney Entertainment. I also want to thank our entertainment partners who will pop up in various ways over the next couple days. We got the Creative Futures Collective, Empire, shout out each one, Empire, YouTube Foundry, didn't get to love that one, okay, and Letterboxd. Letterboxd, there's going to be some activations where you can do hopefully people can do the 4 fave movies over the course of the next few days. I've got to do it tomorrow. I'm a little nervous about it. Also, one thing for all of you guys, please take out your phones for a minute and do two things. Put them on silent, and then scan this QR code, which is sort of your key to unlock most of what's going to happen or just help over the next days. You've got Wi-Fi information, the agenda. You can submit questions that will show up here that we may ask during panels. And then we're also going to have polling during the event that will integrate where appropriate into the sessions. We're going to test this out with a poll that I hope you guys will answer now. It's a little bit frivolous, but it's fun. So which 2024 TV universe, you don't need me to read this out for you, I don't think, but Paris from Emily in Paris, Feudal Japan for Shogun, Back of the House of the Bear. We'll see the results for this in a little bit. If you choose post-apocalyptic LA, I think we need to do security again, but that's just another one. The QR code also gives you a really good benefit. You get 3 free months of subscription to Bloomberg.com. I would hope most of you pay already, but if not, $120 in your pocket. Share during the event on social media. You can follow along at the hashtag Bloomberg Screentime. You can tag us at Bloomberg Live. And then I think that's about it. Let's take a look. Do we have poll results? Paris, sort of obvious. Good showing for Feudal Japan. People like scurvy. Okay. Somehow Fallout has 10%. We're about to bring out our first speaker, but before we do, here's a video showing what's been going on in his world over the last year.
Earlier today, the Department of Justice, joined by 29 states and the District of Columbia, sued Live Nation Entertainment.
The good news is, as we predicted, 25 looks like to be a big banner year again.
Please welcome to the stage Michael Rapino, President and CEO of Live Nation Entertainment.
Clearly, my team didn't do that intro.
I was wondering.
Caitlin said, no, they're just going to mention the DOJ. Don't worry about it. Easy.
I told you it would not be a DOJ panel. We're going to have to talk about it, but it will not be the focus, that I assure you. I want to start by talking about the state of the business, if you will. So you look at the last summer, the year, you have pretty soft festival market, some would say, or just a lot of stories about festivals having trouble. You've had a couple of high-profile flameouts, J-Lo, Black Keys, but also a lot of big successes, right? Taylor Swift, Coldplay, on and on. How has what people will pay for changed in the last couple of years, both in terms of sort of genre and venue or setting, and how are you guys responding to that, if at all?
Right. So let's go right into ticketing from DOJ.
It's not ticketing.
No, pricing. Listen, the concert business is a fabulous business to be in. I'm so proud of what we built and what we have to do every day. And it's such a passionate business. You know, sports, as you and I talked about, you're a Dodger fan. And get into a Dodger game, and whether it's a dugout seat or a courtside for the Lakers, somehow it's a badge of honor that if you spend $7,000 for a Laker ticket, it's okay. Or the Super Bowl, they brag about it. Music's very different. It's very passionate, and you may be passionate about sports, but Sally from the Valley believes that she should see Olivia at $79 because she broke up to her boyfriend from that music. It's deep and emotional. So we have this this great tension that exists all the time. This artist is, you look at a stadium tour like Oasis, they're putting on a Super Bowl a week. 56 transport trucks will travel with that. So it'll be a $10 million a week traveling cost, 300 people hired, 20 million startup. So you got to fund that and finance that. Costs are going up every day like everyone else. So that artist is the great brand manager, right? These artists are CEOs. They're brilliantly trying to connect with their artists. And it's the one product in the world that's worth more the second it's sold. Generally in business, we said, well, just price it to market. But as a brand manager, if you're the artist, you can't charge $3,000 for the front row and look your fan in the face. The problem is scalpers and everyone else have done that. So it's this ongoing tension. What do you charge for the show? What's the supply demand? There's always incredible demand. You can't charge market. Now, though, the scalper's not on the street corner, that artist gets to look every day on SeatGeek and StubHub and go, oh my God, some scalper's making $4,000 a ticket, and I'm paying all the cost, me and the artist. So it's this ongoing challenge of what do they charge that's right for their business model. 90% of what they're going to make in life is coming from the road, so it's their financial business. But where do they find that line where it's accessible, the fan feels connected to them, they don't feel like they're overgouging, and it's slowly moving up over time, and that creates a lot of the social news and tension that exists in that what is the right price that you can deliver supply demand and keep fans happy.
Right. And you guys end up sort of having to bear the brunt of it, even though, as you like to remind people, you don't actually set the pricing. But when I say you guys, I mean Ticketmaster.
Yeah, the artist being capitalist isn't really the theme, right? So we work for the artist. Our job is ultimately to put that show on, figure out how to sell and fill every seat, and yes, probably take the punch in the head when someone's mad about the price. Or we kind of live in this rinse and repeat every 10 times a year, let's call it. Just to reset the game here. 95% of shows don't sell out. You don't hear about those. Those are priced under $100. Everyone is happy they got a ticket. There's no drama. Unfortunately, those 10 times a year, when you have 10 million people trying to buy 1 million Oasis tickets, there's no nice way to tell 9 million passionate fans, sorry, the store is closed. So that creates lots of tension, and they go online and they see 10 pages of secondary tickets, and they get pissed off. So do they get mad at Ticketmaster that we must have somehow let the scalpers in, gave tickets to the scalper? Yes, absolutely. That's the first place they like to punch.
Do you think Oasis will be the biggest tour of next year?
Yeah, we got a few others coming, but probably that'll be the biggest. I mean, it depends on how long the other ones are.
Right.
So we have a few more announcements to come. It's going to be a very big year next year.
Right. You brought up those 10 moments or however many on sales in a year where people get mad, right? Because the fact is selling 100,000 tickets or 80,000 tickets to 2 million people, 4 million people, whatever, it's hard.
Yep.
If you had a magic wand or you were sort of named emperor for the day and you could change ticketing however you wanted, what would you do?
Well, it's a great question. So the first challenge overall, and outside of America, there's really good scalper regulations.
Right. So Europe's very different.
Europe, most countries other than America.
Yeah.
So, most of the pain I endure. So the fan is pissed off at 10:01. I couldn't get a seat. I'm mad at you. Okay, we can't help that. Now we joke in our business. We have to figure out a new business model where how we make 9 million people happy that they couldn't get served, because right now that's just not a typical business model. So we got to figure out how to make them happy in a better, transparent way. But really, what pisses them off is why is there 10 pages of scalpers selling $4,000 tickets? The system must be broken, Rapino. You made me sign up. I'm a fan. I'm willing to pay. You tell me it's sold out, but then how did they get all these tickets? Where did they come from? If you don't have that, you can deal with the first part. You can, people ultimately you can explain supply demand and the lineup. We can get better at the queue and transparency and where you sit in the queue, and we can keep working on all those ways. But it doesn't matter what we do, because they really believe the system must be broken if all these scalpers are selling tickets. Look at this week. Scalpers had $6,000 Oasis tickets the week before we even had the on sale. So, and you go to SeatGeek or StubHub, it's like Amazon pricing. It's like, buy now, limited tickets available. They don't even have tickets. It's a complete no tickets released. It's an IOU. So fans are confused. They see these tickets up front.
Wasn't their argument, correct me if I'm wrong, was that they were tickets that had gone to season ticket holders at certain venues?
Yeah, that's like, a very, very small percentage.
Yeah.
Spec selling is a huge problem. We try our damnedest with all the regulators to try to stop it. There's no enforcement. So if I had to change it, yes, I would love regulation on secondary, whether it's capped. We really believe the artist should have better control. It's frustrating me with an artist.
Capped meaning that you can't resell, that you can only resell at a certain price?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We think you should be able to resell. So the scalpers like to go to regulators and say, oh, I can't give this ticket to my grandmother if you close it. So that's not the problem we're having. The problem is professional bots all around the world. We got hit by multi-billions of bots on the Oasis on sale.
Right.
So they're a professional $12 billion business trying to capture all those seats, right? So it's an arms race with us trying to stop them, not let them in the door, not let them hold the tickets.
Didn't the government pass a Bots Act to address this issue?
They did, and it's, the government at its best. And they have new legislation, right? We've obviously been through the ringer, but no matter what Congress or senator we talk to, or DOJ, I say the same thing. So let me get this straight. So the scalpers can run wild for the last 12 years, unregulated, season, and that's free enterprise. And they're not, they're not the bad guy. So I just think if you ask me how to fix it, yes, that's the problem. No matter how much we do on our side, it's frustrating for the fan to spend $4,000 when Bruce Springsteen says, you know what, I only want to charge $300 for the front row. But no, the fan isn't getting it for $300. The bot is, and then they're charging $3,000. So the artist is pissed off because why doesn't he charge $3,000? Charge market, right? If you really want to fix it, just charge market, and then there's no secondary. Well, the artists aren't going to do that because they're worried about their fans.
Right.
So if they're going to sacrifice the revenue, which is unheard of for businesses, you shouldn't have a middleman that has nothing invested in the business make any money from it.
Yeah.
So we would love it regulated in some sense, cap it at 20%. Some people can make a little money. That would be the biggest part that we get the most tension on the on sale is that.
Right.
Because remember, we're spending all of our time doing this verified fan, sign up, all these things that piss people off. It's just our way to try to figure out are you a bot, a scalper, or a good guy or bad guy.
Right.
And it's never perfect, and it causes lots of drama.
Is ticketing ever enough a pain in the ass that you would just get rid of Ticketmaster and just be a concert promoter?
Some days. Saturday morning, we were waiting for Oasis, and we were so stressed because we knew the load and would be big.
Yeah.
We have the best platform in the world. It is very hard when you have 10 billion bots hitting your system at 10 o'clock to steal your tickets. So Saturday morning, which here in LA, it was midnight here. So I said to my wife at night, I said, oh, fuck, I can just see I'm going to wake up, and something happened. So I was up all night waiting, and I was so happy the system didn't go down. We stopped them. We got it done. Went to sleep. Thank God. This is the biggest on sale in history, the most demand in history. The system stood up. We got fans their tickets. Went on with my day, and then boom, the pissed off at the pricing started. So. And
then you can gripe that nobody writes the story about how the biggest on sale in history doesn't have any problems.
Yeah. You didn't write that. No.
You brought up the government, so
and I will give you credit. The reason I'm here is you do a good job. There's not a lot of great journalists in music, especially live.
Well, we'll see if you feel that way. Thank you for that. That is my cue to ask you about the DOJ. So thank you.
I'm trying to run this clock up.
No, we're gonna run past that. I'm curious because you mentioned government. I just want to read a quote.
Oh, okay.
So this is what you said after the DOJ filed the suit earlier this year. Not you personally, your company, but I assume you approved it or knew it. At bottom, we are another casualty of this administration's decision to turn over antitrust enforcement to a populist urge that simply rejects how antitrust law works. Some call this anti-monopoly, but in reality, it is just anti-business. There are a lot of people, I'd say,
Caitlin wrote that.
There are a lot of people in the business community who feel that way, right? I'm sure peers of yours, they're very frustrated with Lena Khan, very frustrated with Merrick Garland. I guess two questions. One is, what is your opinion of how they've kind of gone about or their understanding of your business? What prompts you to take such a strong stance against their suit?
When we merged 10 plus years ago, we went through it. We did a full year. DOJ approved it. Historically means you kind of passed the test. We agreed to a 10-year decree. So we were monitored for 10 years. Then we agreed to a 5-year extension. So they've been in our business for a long time. Nothing was really a substance that mattered to them. When they started this investigation, after, I guess, from Jonathan Cantor, who just did a Rolling Stone interview, head of the DOJ from his basement with his guitar and his Taylor Swift bracelet, said that he started it after the Taylor Swift on sale. So it just felt like, you know, that the rules got slightly rewritten on vertical, and a lot of the stuff they talk about, the middleman, the vertical, didn't seem like traditional antitrust law. So yeah, we think, listen, at the end of the day, everyone thinks they're innocent. We believe that we built a great business. We're a 2% margin business, so we must be the dumbest monopoly alive. We give 90+% of the door to the artist, unlike any other business. So yes, are we vertical? Of course we're vertical. Every promoter from history has been vertical because that's how you pay the bills when you're 2% margin. You got to own you try to own
the 2% margins on the promotion business, right? The ticketing margins are better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's to pay the artist, to be a promoter, it's a 2% business. So most promoters, AEG, Golden Voice, everyone, they're going to own the festival, they're going to own the venue, they're going to own some ticketing. You have to have a vertical revenue stream to fund the cost. So anyways, we think ultimately we'll prevail. We service the artist at the end of the day. There was no artist claims in this lawsuit. It was all competitor claims, which would make sense, and secondary claims. So yeah, we think that when they call balls and strikes through the process, we will prevail.
And do you anticipate, because we obviously have an election in a month, do you think that the result of that election, depending on who wins, would one of those candidates be less likely to keep pursuing it?
I don't know. That's a loaded one. I'm not sure. We don't know what Harris is going to do, right, in terms of her position on Biden's and that on the DOJ. So I'm not sure.
So in addition to pricing, which we sort of covered, one of the biggest growth areas for your business in recent years has been growing overseas. What would you say is the market right now that has the most untapped potential?
You know, it's just like Groundhog Day in live right now. It has just exploded, and we kind of saw it coming, but I didn't see it coming this fast. You know, this idea that overnight every kid, I don't have my phone, that every 14-year-old has a phone in their pocket, their jukebox. So, you know, think about live music. Music in general for 50 years was a North American, Western Europe business. That was it. Record labels, promoters, that's where traditional gatekeepers lived. You got a record deal, you got racked at HMV, you played MTV, and you made money in Western Europe and America. That's all you did. We toured that. We'd do 100 dates. We'd do 60 here, 30 in Western Europe, maybe 10 promotion. That was the model forever. And you follow the gatekeepers because demand was built by the gatekeepers. Boom, the internet happens, obviously. Spotify, it gets unlocked. And now every 14-year-old from Colombia to Milan knows Kendrick dropped a song this morning. No one had to tell him. So overnight you have this globalization of demand by every kid in the world is watching YouTube, TikTok, however they're finding out about the artist of the day. So you have this incredible new demand. So overnight, in the last 5 years, we kind of went from, when we would talk to an artist about touring, you know, you'd say, listen, all the money, you got to do your 60 US, America, 30. Really, if you really want to do a couple Latin America, Asia.
Maybe Australia.
Maybe, you know, if you really are big there, but you're not going to make any money. Now it's just completely turned around. Now it's, you know, we just look at Coldplay. We just did first time in history, did 12 nights in Argentina. Stadium sold out, 6 in Seoul. Just sold 3 in India, fastest ever in sale there. They bitched about the ticket price. What else do we see? So every market now overnight, we can take that artist and the part
is there a market that you really want to break that you haven't, or that you're sort of, you don't want to go? Like, do you look at markets like China and Saudi and say, no, I don't want to do that?
I don't want to do China. That's too hard. They're still, you know, they won't let most artists in because they censor all the lyrics. So not a good business. But you know, we think Africa's going to be a big business. South Africa and main Africa. I mean, this India, we just sold out Lollapalooza in India for the first time in history, festival, 3 Coldplay stadiums in a second. And the part that's interesting is it's almost the same prices. So it used to be you maybe could play those markets, but you had to charge a lot less. Now those stadiums are getting pretty much the same grosses as Detroit. So now from Asia, Latin America, Middle East, it's demand is there from the consumer, pricing is there. A lot of infrastructure is not there, which we talk about building, because most of those countries all have soccer stadiums. They don't have an NBA, NHL team, so they probably don't have arenas, and they don't have many great venues. But that's coming.
Is that one of the reasons, and correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like you guys are investing a lot more in venues and real estate than you used to be, right? You were sort of you were always a third-party business. You partnered with venues, but you didn't own them. But I've heard you talking a lot more about it. Is that one of the reasons why, or why are you doing that?
Yeah, our business model has always been, this model I talk about. We'll do 40,000 shows a year. We'll spend about $14 billion at midnight paying that artist. As I said, that's kind of the content wheel, but then you have to have, you have to monetize it otherwise. So if we own the Wiltern down the street, if you own the Wiltern and you're doing the food and the beverage and the sponsorship, you're going to have a better return.
Right.
We did Moody Arena in Austin, was our first arena, and outside of America, there's lots of white space for arenas.
Now, speaking of sort of owned venues, you do a lot of business with the Sphere. You do not own the Sphere. That's not your problem. What are your impressions of it? Do you think Nolan will ever make his money back?
I think listen. I give him full credit for the innovation. In venues in general, there's a slight change going on. It's not going to be dramatic, but musicians played in sports venues, right? We were the tail on the dog. If you're a billionaire that owns an arena or a stadium, your team is your baby, and then the artists and the shows were the cream on your business. Now that show is important, right? And that your fan may be sick of going to 40 games, but man, they want to see Taylor Swift and Beyonce and all that. So the artists have become the league. So it has started like in Moody's in Austin. I mean, we built an arena without a sports team, and it's on fire. Right, so there's that idea that venues that are just about music will happen more and more. Forum when Irving and that started it. So he took a big swing. It's innovative as hell. I'm sure he'll the cost versus the revenue part he'll figure out over time. But no, I give him full credit. Artists love the idea of it. I've been there many times now. Artists ask us about it. I don't know if the business model is replicable. I don't know if it works. Yeah. Vegas is a unicorn of life.
Do you have a favorite of the Sphere shows that you've seen? Or am I asking you to choose between your children?
I mean, we're pretty deep in the Bono and U2 world. So that was I only give us that because we didn't know when we signed up for that. That was fully Bono. I tried to talk him out of it. I was worried about it. He was determined to do it. And,
why were you worried about it?
Well, you remember there was, how many articles were being written,
This is a disaster.
We're going to open. I remember I was sitting with Jim one night, and he said to me, we're not sure if people are going to throw up, right? Because I said about Bono, he told me they may throw up. Like, what if 18,000 people and it shakes a little too much? And do we trust that he said, but I got a guy that's going to look at it. A guy? I don't know. So we were worried. I was worried. Just like, listen, as I said to Bono, my job isn't to figure out what can go right. It's what can go wrong.
Yeah.
Bono's a force of nature. He said, let's go for it. And we sat there opening night, and it was fabulous.
Made it work.
Yeah.
What do you think's a bigger business opportunity, Sphere or things like the Sphere or holograms?
Wow. Holograms. I haven't heard that for a bit.
Well, I'm thinking the ABBA show.
Yeah, and it's a fabulous success. We've dabbled in a bunch of it. We haven't been able to really scale any of it. I don't think that's a big business. I think it's a unique model. There'll be some of those. Maybe there's one here or Vegas of ABBA. So that remember Van Gogh for a minute. So that whole.
I know. I drove by. It's actually right by here. It's closed down right here in Hollywood.
The guy came to see me, wanted to sell me the company for like crazy amount of money, and then he's bankrupt. So that I've dabbled and not been good. And the experiential business is tough. A lot of people, they have these moments where they think it can work. So that it's we used to be in the theater business. Theater's hard too. For every home run you get a lot of fails. So I don't know that business is a scalable business. I think you'll have some hits ongoing. I don't think it. One thing about live music, and I'm so lucky. I don't have all the problems that Hollywood has. that's just not duplicatable, right? Like the 2 hours of the artist in person, you're going there to honor and be part of that tribe and that magic moment. There's a big difference between that and a hologram or a screen.
Right.
Even the sphere, the band's still there. It's still part of that community, right?
Sometimes forget that they're there, but they're there.
I know, but it doesn't, we have the U2 movie playing there. It's not the same.
Right.
So the magic goosebumps that you get for 2 hours live from that experience, it's not, we've dabbled over years. You can stream it, you can do, all the ways people think we can watch it at home, it just never translates. So live is unique.
And that would be the argument, I guess, against also like the Roblox concerts or the different virtual in-game concerts.
Yeah, I think I got 3 young boys, they live on gaming and they know it all, but I'm thrilled. One, they love music, so I love that. They're not because of me, regardless of me, as you know, for the kids. So they've got their iPod, their phones, they love music, and they want to go to shows, right? So, and not because of me, like it was, like I got to stand in the back, right? So.
Do they know that they can get into any show they want?
We just, my boys are 14, 12, and 10, and they just sat me down and said, Dad, we want no money from you. We want nothing. We want to build our own life. So I was like, great.
Really?
Absolutely.
I guess you did.
Wait till they're 20.
Yeah.
So no, they're very anti-dad, right? So they want to, in terms of they want to do it on their own and go on their own, be with their buddies. But my long-winded point was they love music as much as I did at 14. Even though they're in a virtual world all day and they live in that, I think it's still a very separate differences. They love when Travis Scott played on Fortnite. That's very different than Dad, take us to Travis Scott.
Right.
So I don't think that.
I have to imagine that's come up though.
What's that?
Dad, take us to Travis Scott.
It has or hasn't?
You tell me.
Absolutely. Yeah. I get a lot of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's on fire right now again.
I know you said holograms are sort of a select experience, but I am curious because I'm thinking of one band, right? We've got Taylor right now, who I think we can agree is probably the biggest artist we've seen in decades, right?
Yep.
Is that fair?
For sure.
If the Beatles, if you like flipped on a Beatles show tomorrow, do you think that could outsell her?
Is a hologram? Or what are you saying?
Hologram. Unfortunately, I can't bring
still?
people. I can't. Okay, we can move off holograms.
No.
But I'm thinking,
would a Beatles hologram? Sure. Yeah, it would be a business. But even
no. But would it outsell Taylor Swift?
Oh no. None of that stuff. Even ABBA is not outselling anybody.
Right.
It's a.
Yeah, but the Beatles are the Beatles.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I maybe Meta glasses one day or something maybe, but I don't think I think the hologram's the wrong avenue for you.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm curious. You brought up the problems in media earlier. Do you have? I just heard a groan from the crowd. Do you have any thoughts on how you would fix it? You're CEO of a company. If you ran a film and TV company.
Wow. No. I love. Listen, I'm proud of one thing we did. So we launched Live Nation 16 years ago. We were $600-700 million market cap. We were car salesmen. Promoters didn't talk about us. You wouldn't even take my call. It was all about record labels. But I tell you one thing. When we started building, I said to the board, man, we got to be direct to consumer. Like entire Hollywood is B2B, and we're going to get screwed. The artists are going to take all the money, and whoever knows the customer will. So I am proud of us. We were the first, well before anyone else, when we started ticketing. That was about own the customer, and then I ended up buying Ticketmaster. If I didn't buy Ticketmaster 12, 13 years ago and stayed the middleman, renewed with Ticketmaster, I wouldn't be here today. The business, it would have been over, because as a single-minded promoter, you couldn't survive. You needed to build a business. We have 900 sponsors now. I wouldn't have 900 sponsors if I didn't own the customer, own the data, understand the customer. So I said to the board 14, 15 years ago, we have to turn the pyramid upside down. We have to own the customer, own the relationship, and then we'll be more valued by the content. If we don't do that, we're just a middleman, we'll get squeezed and it'll be over. So I'm proud of our path. I used to say to Lucian, why don't you own the customer? Why don't you,
CEO of Universal Music Group.
Yeah, why don't you own the customer? Why don't you? So I think it's hard if you don't own the customer.
When did you feel, you brought up how nobody would take your call, which I'm sure is not true, but when did you feel that switch from I'm like the B team to now most people would say the most powerful person in the music business?
Well, you know, we were $6, $7 stock for 10 years, right? Because people would say you're low margin. I don't get it. And we would be bragging about experience economy, you know, all that. No one was listening at the time. And our business was starting to build. It was still, though, considered, you know, a low margin business. And I think, now, I joked that John Malone, big shareholder, said to me one day, you know, your business is like a Ferris wheel. It's doing well. You got to add more. You got to add more revenue to it, more revenue buckets. I turned that into flywheel, which now
everybody uses.
Yeah, and DOJ uses nicely now. So we deconstructed the flywheel. But I would say it was only about 8 or 9 years ago when we kind of went from $8, $9, $10 to 70 and kind of got the valuation. Was this wind in general about experience economy, right? That started to kind of really set the tone everywhere. People started to realize, oh, experiences versus products, Disney theme parks. So I needed that back wind to start happening also. And then when we started kind of bragging about, well, that's what we are, let us show research, customers value going to show higher than sex, second highest value in the year, Kodak Moments. Our story, when the overall movement towards experience economy kind of caught on Wall Street, our story was sitting there, and we ended up kind of being the only brand out there that was kind of living a pure play experience. Sports also boomed at the same time. It just wasn't, you know, not a stock market kind of play.
Okay, I have a really tough final question for you.
Right.
Started your career as a beer sales rep, right?
Yep.
What's your favorite beer?
Oh, geez. I mean, my house, I still have, so I started in a small town in Canada, Thunder Bay, working for Labatt Breweries. Labatt Blue was the beer I started. The reason I started there was Labatt Blue bought the Rolling Stones' first world tour. Michael Cole from Canada. So I'm in Thunder Bay, and this god called Michael Cole lives in Toronto, bought the Rolling Stones world tour. I was actually graduated from school and was an accountant. Got hired by Clarkson Gordon and to be an accountant. And Labatt Breweries came out with Steel Wheels tour, and I met the guy in Thunder Bay and said, I want to work for Labatt Breweries because I want to work for the concert company. And that's how I got my job. And then I ended up working Labatt for a while, left, started my own. So to this day, if you go to my house, it is stocked with Labatt Blue. I owe a lot to them. They taught me a ton. Thank you. Perfect.
Thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I think there's never been a better time to invest in this growth story.
It's great to see. It's great when women's game is showcased the way it's supposed to be.
Please welcome to the stage Clara Wusai, Vice Chairman of BSE Global and Governor of the New York Liberty, and Candace Parker, President of Adidas Women's Basketball and Athlete Advisor at Avenue Capital, for conversation with Bloomberg's Jason Kelly.
All right. So you heard a little bit of mention of sports. We're going to talk some serious sports. And we're going to start by talking about something that's literally happening tomorrow, back where I live and back where Clara is headed. New York Liberty playing in the WNBA Finals. Congratulations. We have some fans here.
Good, thank you.
You played in a few finals.
Just a couple. Just a couple.
Won 3 with 3 different teams. Is that right? Or you won with 3 different teams is probably a better way to put it. Do you have a prediction?
I mean, put me on the spot here. No, I think New York is playing the best basketball in the WNBA all season, so for sure.
All right, so I want to talk about the business of the WNBA because this is an absolutely fascinating moment to talk about this. Something big is happening. It's undeniable. You've both seen it from different perspectives. I do want to take a quick show of hands. Who's been to a WNBA game in this room? Who wants to go to a WNBA? Okay, good answer. All right. So you've got a bigger total addressable market here. Clara, I want to start with you. Back in the day, not that long ago, about 2,000 people average showing up. I have the numbers here. Your average attendance this year, I believe I have this right, 12,730. That is higher than the WNBA average of 9,807. What happened? What was the key thing that happened to drive that number to almost 6 times higher?
What happened to the New York Liberty? Well, first of all, we saw great numbers last year, and we had already broken a lot of business records last year in terms of viewership and attendance, and even gate receipts, which is obviously what we all want from a business standpoint. Fortunately, that success and all the infrastructure that we had built to support that allowed us to be ready for this year. And this year, it's undeniable that everybody got almost like a significant increase in all of the important metrics.
Right.
And the key, of course, is to just sustain that growth.
Right. We're going to talk about sustaining it. Before we get to that, Candace, I have to ask you, when you see these sorts of numbers, when you're no longer playing, do you channel my 6-year-old, who in this case would say, "Bro, are you kidding me?" How does it make you feel that, you were there, you were doing it, and now the numbers are coming?
It's so interesting because I feel like it was that steady growth and that steady persistence. Everybody looks at the growth of these numbers, but to be honest with you, I think it was opportunity. If you think about it, before New York's ownership changed, they were playing at Westchester. It was not a desirable place to play. The NCAA game was not on ABC. It was on ESPN, and it was buried not during prime time. And then it was kind of like this effect of, okay, we're going to put the NCAA game on ABC for the first time. And then it was like, wow, they shattered the numbers of the past. And so it's almost like little by little it was the opportunity. And I think that's where we saw the skyrocket, and it was honestly franchises being ready for that.
Yeah.
It was franchises like New York, franchises like the Las Vegas Aces that were ready with a practice facility, with player experience. And so I think the numbers are reflective to a lot of different things, television, all of that stuff. 2020 and all of the social justice and the bubble and the center stage that we were on during that time. But I think it was also a combination of just franchises being ready to sustain the growth. And Indiana played in a barn. They played at Butler the year before Kaylin got there. So it's just, I think this growth is remarkable, but I think it was like the steady eddy at the beginning.
And I want to say, I agree. I think the fact that mainstream media, college basketball, women's basketball has been popular for a while, but the fact that mainstream media covered it and social media covered it and the virality of social media, that's what really allowed viewers to actually follow players from college into the WNBA. And that is really what the league was looking for and what it needed. But it was really the fact that ESPN and actually reporters like Robin Roberts and Gayle King actually went to cover Caitlin when she was in college. And so she did become a household name before she even went into the draft. And that really took that mainstream fan that follows Iowa right into the WNBA.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, I have to add this one thing.
Please.
It's an event. I broadcast TNT for the NBA, right? Game number 3 in November. As much as I love James Harden, I love LeBron, sometimes it's not the most entertaining, right? Let's just be honest, it's not. It's buried in November, and it's a number 5 game, 5th game of the season. It's an event, though. You go there, there's a show, there's a pregame show, there's a jumbotron, and I think You think about Ellie.
Right.
Oh,
You think about the mascot Ellie and what that has become. You think about it in Vegas, it became a halftime show. It became the place to be. It became an event. And I think that that is the growth that was needed, and that was the entertainment that was needed alongside the WNBA.
So you're pointing towards something which feels like it's critical to this entire conversation. And I had the great opportunity last week with my partner, Alex Rodriguez, to tape an episode of The Deal with Candace Parker. That's what we call a deep tease. It's coming out later this season. Tune in wherever you get your podcasts, Bloomberg Television, et cetera. But one of the things you said, which you guys are both alluding to, is this notion that the investment is now meeting the product. And so, Clara, I wonder, you were one of the people literally making those investments. What was the key investment, as you look back, that you feel like you made in the Liberty to make this possible, to meet the product?
Right. Well, the boldest move was to move the team to Barclays Center at a time when we didn't know where our fans were, because by that point, the fans didn't know where we were. So there were years when we were investing heavily into the performance team and nutrition, and sort of we had this idea that we wanted to treat the players like elite professional athletes. Okay, so that requires a serious upgrade. But the first thing we did was move them to Barclays. That was difficult because we only had like 2,000 people in an arena that actually sits 18,000. That first year in 2020, we had a record of 2-20. Now, luckily, that year, we then, as a result of that kind of performance, we had the #1 draft pick. And that was when we were able to reset our roster. And we were fortunate that another generational talent, Sabrina Ionescu, the star point guard from University of Oregon, we drafted her, and she became the player that we were going to build around and support. Right? And so the investment was bringing them there, investing in the locker room. We built a state-of-the-art locker room. We invested in the nutrition performance team. And the idea was to be able to attract the top talent. And then when there became mobility within the league due to the last CBA negotiations, Breanna Stewart was available. I went to Turkey to recruit her. And basically just wanted to chat with her, get to know her and her wife and Ruby and their daughter, and just talk about what our hopes and aspirations were for the league. And I wanted her to feel welcome into our organization. And that was pivotal because she came, and through the trade and the draft and free agency, we were able to put together a team of all-stars.
Right.
And that's when we began to win. And winning is everything. Because you can have the wall-to-wall entertainment, you can have Ellie, you can have the Timeless Torches, and they are fabulous. I have to thank my team for creating an incredible...
The Timeless Torches, can you explain who the Timeless Torches are for this audience?
The Timeless Torches are our ageless dance troupe.
Please, after this, Google Timeless Torches.
Yeah.
They are ageless, and they are amazing.
Yeah. And that's the great thing, by the way, about being in New York, right? Is we've got great dancers because they're, this is just part of our culture. And, I have to say, our team really created an experience that's very culturally relevant, for the league, but also for New York City.
Yeah. So Candace, hearing everything that Clara is saying, you have made no secret about the fact you want to own a WNBA team and an NBA team. That's on your vision board. You're also the president of women's basketball at Adidas. So how do you seize this moment as a business person? Where are the investments that you make to take advantage of all this?
Well, it's so interesting because years ago there weren't sports funds, and now there are so many that exist. And I think that where women's basketball is right now, we're seeing it as an investment, and I think we've seen it in years past where people have looked at it as a support, as a charity. I think people like Clara have come in and proven its value and proven that it can make money if you invest in the correct and the right way. And so for me, I think it's a unique position to be able to say that you have played, but also you understand the power of building a culture and a power of building something that's sustainable and the player experience behind everything. We look at the NBA as kind of the blueprint And those leagues didn't really take off until probably around 30. The WNBA is 28 years young. But we've seen the power of player experience.
Right.
And players elevate their games when that player experience is good. And so for me, during this time, I think it's just unique opportunities that will come about. I have an amazing mentor and business partner in Mark Lazary, who owned an NBA team, owned the Bucks, and then sold. So it's a unique position to be able to be a partner with somebody that has done what a lot of people dream of doing and has done something that and wants to do it again. So that's kind of where I'm at.
And fair to say, you guys are all in on women's sports. I mean, Avenue just bought the North Carolina Courage, correct, in the NWSL, part of that deal. So Clara, as we think about what happens next, we're Bloomberg after all, we love dollar figures and valuations. We're sitting here in a city where recently an investor group led by Bob Iger, really led by Willow Bay, and Bob Iger, valued at $250 million, the highest valuation ever for a women's sports team. How do valuations go from here? How soon do we see a $1 billion women's sports franchise, do you think?
Well, I think I'm on record for saying that in 10 years, I think the New York Liberty can be the first $1 billion women's sports franchise.
All right, write it down. What gets you there? Like, what do you need to do to hit that goal?
Viewership. It's basically broadening our reach and accelerating fandom. And that's, in attendance, but it's also viewership. And right now, the viewership has obviously improved a lot. Revenues are lagging. And so I think it's because, people want to see that we can, look at that. Look, just within 1 year, it grew so fast, right? So I think that the reason the revenues are lagging are because people want to make sure that that's a sustainable curve, or that it stays at that level and ideally continues to grow. I mean, we are growing at a different rate than all the other, the other major sports leagues.
Right.
So, but the fact that the viewership has grown, and that to me, it's very clear that it's going to catch up, because in terms of viewership, we're maybe 30% viewership of the NBA at this point, but we're only, even with the new deal, 4% of the media deal.
Right.
So there's a lot of room there, and I'm counting on the viewership continuing to rise, just because I think the talent it's going to explode next year, by the way, and then keep going. But the talent coming up, and just the training kids have, and the I mean, we have people playing until their late 30s, 40s. I mean, people know how to take care of their bodies. I mean, I think there's really going to be a lot of talent, and the game is just going to get better and better. And it's very physical. That's the thing. When I bring new people, they're amazed at how physical and competitive the games are.
She knows.
Yeah, I know. But she knows that people are surprised, right, who haven't gone.
Yeah.
And they're just like, it's been this way, by the way. It's been dope a long time.
Yeah.
But people, but now they're coming because of Ellie or because they've heard, right? But that's the thing.
That's Ellie, just FYI, if you guys don't know.
Yeah, if anybody was wondering who Ellie is.
That's the show.
By the way, that's my favorite quote of the night so far.
Okay.
It's been dope a long
Yeah,
time.
it's been-
Clara Sai.
Yes.
Are you
It's
going to
been
use
dope.
that one?
Mic drop.
Yeah, mic drop. It's been dope a long time. We're done. No, I'm just kidding.
Right.
So what do you, you want to be an owner, and again, like, you've got this job now as an executive. So what do you think needs to happen to make this sustainable?
Well, I think now we are seeing people that are investing in women's sports that have never been in this landscape before, which I think that there's power in that. If we're able to, as a league, continue to have the reach and to have the investment, like you said, you spoke about leadership. I think it's also continuing to understand the value of women in general. The purchasing power, you look at now how the tunnel fits have become a runway. Right? Now it's fashion.
Yeah.
Did you see our off-white jackets?
I did. I saw that. I wanted to hit you up and ask you for one. But it's so interesting, because I had the benefit of sitting with one of the founders of Skims, and he said, now we're looking at a landscape where during our parents' generation, they were actresses and actors that were the superstars and the megastars. And now we're into a generation where it's the sports stars that are having that same impact and that, that cultural touch and input and things like that within what drives culture. And so I think it's continuing to capitalize on that and lean into it as a league. And just, like you said, let's just not make this a charity. Let's really invest and invest in the right way. And I think we have owners now that are coming into the league that are willing to do that.
But that's the main thing that's changed, though.
That's new.
That is new, because when we invested, it was definitely a distressed asset. I would call it undeniably a distressed asset, and it was like a charitable endeavor. But now, so much wealth is private equity is coming in. I mean, it is a business story.
Yeah.
The valuations reflect that, as you just mentioned, right? So that's what's really changed. It is definitely a business story.
And so what does the league need to do? I mean, what do you need to do as the current owners to sort of encourage, to make it possible for Candace to come in with a group, for other like-minded people to come in?
For Candace to invest, you mean? To be able to invest in a team? Okay, well, I would say you need to invest smartly, and you need to invest with a great team. Okay, you've started with Mark Lazary. There are others out there. And you don't even have to be investing in women's sports right now. I mean, you should just invest in good businesses. And, I love the story of Junior Bridgman.
Yep.
He's a minority investor a significant minority investment in the Milwaukee Bucks. But he is, do you know his story? Okay, so just really quickly, he played for the Bucks for, I think, 10 seasons, and his jersey's retired there, so it hangs up in Fiserv. And he was really interesting. I think he scored double digits for 8 consecutive seasons as a bench player. And so he holds a lot of records for points coming off the bench. But when he retired, he started to invest in restaurants. And he became the CEO of Bridgman Foods, and they invested in 420 Wendy's and Chili's restaurants. And then in 2017, he bought the Heartland Coca-Cola bottling company. He became an independent bottler of Coca-Cola. And obviously, he made a nice sum to be able to take a significant stake, because now the valuations, especially for an NBA team, are through the roof.
And so to that point, I mean, are you seeing, Candace, I mean, you are unique in your talent and your ambition to some extent, and yet you're also, it feels like, part of a generation of athletes who are taking this entirely much more seriously from a younger, you started investing, you started doing business. What was the catalyst for you?
Well, I know, just looking at the landscape now, I mean, NIL would have, I look back at NIL, man, I wish we had that back in our day.
Yeah.
You're seeing athletes become a business. And I mean, I'm from Chicagoland, and you look at Caleb Williams, and he has his own venture capital firm that he opened. I mean, you're seeing athletes younger and younger, 15, 16 years old, with the ability to be at cap tables.
Yeah.
And so I think, for me personally, I think it's just capitalizing on the relationships, which I think is a lot of what business is. It's the learning element of things. It's figuring out where others have made mistakes and where you can possibly avoid those things. And I think it's just a lot of listening, to be honest with you. I think that's a important thing to learn. But I also want to say that in years past, I think people were hesitant to approach women to be at cap tables, especially as women athletes. Didn't think that we could write the checks or we could bring value. And I think that's turning around now, and you're seeing more people and more, especially female athletes. I sat on a panel last week with Alex Morgan, who has a number of businesses coming from soccer. So I think now the doors are opening up, and I think the table is getting a little bit bigger, and we just need to take advantage of it and continue to try to open up more doors for the next.
Final word to you, Clara. What's the advice you give your players? I would imagine they come to you with some of these same questions. What's the advice you give them in terms of building into being the next Candace Parker or the next Clara Tsai?
Learn the business, as particularly, a lot of them want equity in, eventually, right, people want to have an ownership stake. Sue Bird was the face of Seattle Storm, which brought them made them who they are, right? And they gave her a little piece. So I think, understanding the business is really important. I mean, right now, what I tell the players, well, I always say, and I got this from actually Michael Strahan's interview with you guys when he said, you can win, have a great career, but you actually need a championship. So, I think we're all focused, I think for them in their careers, winning a championship, they have to.
Just win.
Just like,
What sound like a what?
Going into the finals tomorrow.
Yeah, it's like,
Let's win.
Just
Let's win. But and I think you have to be able to say you're a champion.
Yeah.
And so but this team thing is with women in our team. I mean, they're so determined, and I don't really have to say very much.
Right.
They're super motivated.
They got it.
But I think for them, they want at this stage, it's sponsorships. We want to just continue to try to drive opportunities to them.
All right. Well, go Liberty.
Okay, thank you.
Don't tell Alex Rodriguez I said go Liberty because he has the links. But we're going to say in this room, go Liberty. Thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Please welcome to the stage Mike Hopkins, head of Prime Video and Amazon MGM Studios at Amazon, for a conversation with Bloomberg's Caroline Hyde.
Watch a bit of WNBA on Amazon now.
We have the WNBA this season too, but then we'll have a lot more of it next year.
You have been so busy, Mike, and I just want to go over what 2024 has meant to you. There's not much on the internet about someone who has one of the biggest jobs in entertainment. We call it humble, we call it smart, but I've been rifling through your back history, and I know that you first started selling door-to-door ads, basically, and now we're back doing ads. But before we get into ads, I want to hear about 2024 and just what a mega year it's been.
Yeah, thank you. Well, thanks for having me. It's nice to meet you in person too.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, it's been a big year for us. A lot of it obviously the groundwork was laid over the last 3 or 4 years, but we started the year on the programming front with a little movie called Saltburn. Anybody see Saltburn here? And that just kind of blew up the internet and became a big hit for us in January.
Us Brits, we do that.
Yeah, it was big. I have the toilet in our, or the bathtub in an office in London. I do. Anyway, oh God, how did we get there?
Carry on. What else do we have?
But then right after that, we had a couple of additional movies that launched. Roadhouse was a big hit for us at the beginning of the year, and same with Idea of You. And then we had Fallout, became a big global franchise for us. Boys Season 4 was amazing. And obviously we just had Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power finale last week. So it's been.
And you're watching all of this yourself?
Oh, every minute, multiple times. But so on the programming front, Jen Salke and her team have really started to hit a cadence of hits that we're really proud of and excited about. And what's coming in the future, I'm even more excited about. Yeah.
Let's dig in a little bit on the advertising side of things, and indeed sort of what. Obviously, people are coming to you for the content, but how have you managed, what have you learned in those 9 months? So it was January the 29th when you first turned it on.
Yeah.
How many of us are paying to not get ads?
Yeah. Well, we don't disclose those numbers publicly, but quite honestly, not as many as you would think. The advertising load is very light because of the way we offered advertising on Prime. And so far, we've been happy both on the customer side because we've not seen the levels of churn or cancellations that some might have thought, and on the advertiser side, it's been really exciting to see the response from advertisers. We just finished our first upfront a couple months ago, and we exceeded our expectations there, and we're just excited to see what happens in the future here.
Can you increase prices on the ads?
Well, we like the CPMs we got. I think we held price pretty well. I think when you put this amount of inventory into the ad market,
it annoys some competitors.
It's going to put some pressure on pricing, but we're happy with where we ended up.
Okay. And what, therefore, about third-party platforms as well? I mean, we're starting to see that with Netflix offering it to Google or some of the inventory. Would you go there?
Well, we have our own DSP, the Amazon DSP, and our ads team is building that network out pretty aggressively right now. And we have third-party supply that Paul Kotis, who runs ad sales for us, he's got obviously our stores inventory, as we call it, on Amazon.com, and a variety of media and entertainment properties as well.
I know you don't disclose numbers, but Bloomberg Intelligence, just to give them a little nod, they thought that $2 billion could be your run rate for ads for 2024, could run up to $5 billion for 2025. Are they sort of ballpark?
We'll see. I like the sound of those numbers, though.
Okay. Achievable? Achieved?
We'll see.
Okay, okay. But then let's talk a little bit about what you offer, because I'm trying to get our head around, you offer advertising because the content is so great, but the content isn't just your own originals, it's not just movies that we've talked about, but it's also, well, the sports we'll dig into, and partnerships, partner channels.
Yeah.
Why bring in other partner channels?
Yeah.
What's in it for them?
Yeah, well, so what we've tried to become over the last 4 or 5 years is, a first stop entertainment hub for consumers around the world. What I mean by that is not only do we have the prime content that we talked about at the top, including Thursday Night Football, we have our 4th game of the season tomorrow night, the NBA coming next year, NASCAR, but around the world we also have Champions League throughout Europe and a variety of sports as well. So we've got our prime programming, but we also offer the world's largest TVOD store, rent and buy movies and TV shows in the world. And then on top of that, we have over 100 partner streaming services that you can subscribe to right inside of our application. And what we found is consumers, if you think about the number of apps and subscriptions you have, it's kind of hard to keep track of it all. You're not sure exactly where that show or movie might be. And so what we've noticed is people realize they can subscribe to Max or Paramount Plus or League Pass or Crunchyroll, et cetera, inside of Prime Video. We see a lot more engagement. We are able to get subscribers for those businesses at a real attractive rate. And it's an exciting part of our business. In fact, we're going to announce tonight that we are adding Apple TV Plus to our Prime Video channels propositions in the not too distant future. And
why? Why Apple TV Plus?
Well, they have great programming, and we've had a good partnership with Apple on a number of fronts. But our companies do a lot of business together, and I want to thank Eddie Q, who I know isn't here tonight, but he and his team have done a great job with this deal, and we're excited to get it going.
What's in it for Apple?
Well, I think what we offer channel partners is hundreds of millions of subscribers around the world that have access to their channel.
Hundreds of millions, 200 million.
There's another number we don't talk a lot about, but you can probably easily find information about me than our number of subscribers online.
Yes, you were hard enough.
But I think having this engagement around the world with Prime members accessing Prime Video is a real great platform for other partners to be able to reach them. Easy access to the subscriber base, one-stop shop, easy navigation, one-click subscription right in one app, and I think that's what's attracting partners.
How does that negotiation start? Who picked up the phone to who first?
Oh gosh, we've been talking for a while. It took a while, but we're happy that we're here.
You wooed them? Were they easy to coax?
Well, what we've really spent a lot of time doing is figuring out how do we make it easy to be a partner. We have leadership principles at Amazon. One of them is customer obsession.
How many of them are now?
Oh, there's
14?
12 or 14. Yeah, and so as we look at our partners as customers, so what we're spending a lot of time on is how do we make it easy for them to onboard? How do we make it easy for them to look at our service just as it were a device?
Yeah.
And so we want to give them the same benefits as you would get if you were on Apple TV or Fire TV or Roku, being part of our ecosystem. And I think that's worked out pretty well.
Does that help from your own background? You're someone who's done all parts of media, like old school TV. I'm still fighting the good fight, but they then go into movies and content. You've been a customer of Amazon before you've come to lead it.
Yeah.
Does that help from your perspective?
Yeah, I've in my career I've been able to be a customer, a competitor, a supplier at Sony, and so I think I've gotten to know the company pretty well through all those crossing of paths.
So let's talk a little bit more about the content you're offering and sports. I want to dwell in there a little bit. You were at Fox. You know what it takes to build must-watch sports channels. So it's got really expensive. How do you feel about the price point, for example, like NBA, WNBA?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're happy with the deal we got. We obviously have analytics that tell us it's going to be accretive and very good for our customers. But what we really like about sports is that, as television viewership is migrating from, linear television via cable, satellite, et cetera, into a streaming environment, people's tastes didn't change. They still want to watch football games and basketball games, and they want to watch movies and TV shows. And so what we're trying to build is, sort of the next generation of an entertainment service, and not just be solely focused on movies, television, VOD. And so in addition to live sports, we were talking backstage about fast channels have become a big part of our service as well.
Yeah.
We have Bloomberg on there as well. I've been watching it this week. And so, we're trying to be a hub of all things content for customers in one app.
What about, talking of watching Bloomberg, what about talent for things like NBA? You're going to get, I'm not free, I'm sad. But
we got a little time, it's not till next year.
Shaq, a wannabe, or?
Shaq's great. I love Shaq.
Okay.
I'm a longtime Laker fan.
You're also not just perhaps a ball guy when it comes to NBA. I know you like MLB as well. I think you actually wanted to be a baseball player at one point.
Oh yeah, a long, long time ago, sure. Who didn't?
I didn't. Well, let's talk a little bit about, therefore, local sports. Is that something that you and I wanting to be getting more into?
We've looked at local sports. We have an equity position in the YES Network. And in New York, we actually offer 20 Yankees games a season on Prime Video to Prime customers. And what's been interesting, that's basically the old broadcast package that used to exist in market. And what we've seen every single year, ratings and viewership of our Yankee games is up 15 or 20% every single year.
Yeah.
And so I think what's happening is people's muscle memory is changing. The awareness that there is live sport on streaming is changing over time, and people are finding it. And so Thursday Night Football, for example, was up 25% in its second season. Through 3 games, it's up 20% this season. And I think that's just going to continue. And over time, I think live sport is going to be viewed just as often and as frequently on streaming as it is on linear TV.
Talking of football, NFL, will they exercise an early opt-out, do you think? How expensive is that going to get?
Early in terms of the deals, we'll see. We still have a few years to see what happens. I think the marketplace, the media landscape is changing so dramatically. A lot's going to happen between now and then.
How is it changing dramatically?
Well, I think, I've seen a lot of people in the room who've written a lot about this, but obviously the cable and satellite industry the cable channel business has eroded over the last, actually almost since the second I left. I had great timing to leave that part of the business, but what you've seen is this multi-channel big bundle decline every year for the last decade or so, and I think that's put a lot of pressure on the legacy media companies. And so that's the catalyst, I think, of all of this change that we're seeing.
Then spin it forward, and it feels for me, there's you, there's Disney, there's Netflix. What happens to the rest? Do they all end up as partner channels on you? Or?
I think everyone's got different strategies there. I mean, most of the companies have incredible IP. You look around the media landscape, and there's tremendous IP. Everyone's got movie studios and television studios. I think folks are just going to have to pick their strategy and go aggressively after it, understanding that the legacy cable business is on a decline, and it's probably not going back the other way. So how do you deal with that, I think, is a question for each of those companies.
Is consolidation something that you're expecting among peers?
Well, I think pretty much everybody does at some level, right? It's a bit of a parlor game right now to figure out what's going to happen between the companies that are out there, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Would you be buying?
Well, we've
You've
bought
done some
one.
buying,
We did
yeah.
that. One of the first things we did when I got to Amazon was bought MGM, which we were fortunate, and when we were looking to see how to bolster our content business with library and IP, that MGM existed and didn't have those challenges. It didn't have a bunch of cable channels and those kinds of things to manage. So it was pretty clean, which was really attractive to us. And then we've got, 50 years worth of IP that we get to mine. And we just talked about Roadhouse being one, and we've got a lot of projects in development.
What about those Bond movies?
Well, we're working on those too. We'll see. I wish I could announce something there, but we're not ready to.
I mean, how much, when you've got such legacy IP that you can drill into, how easy or hard is it in these contractual negotiations when you buy such a storied studio such as MGM.
It is, and we take it seriously. You know, it's got a huge legacy. In fact, you know, we're on the Culver Studios lot, which at various times has been MGM. MGM's actually was the Sony lot for a long time. We're putting up their 75-year-old sign, MGM Studios sign on our lot at Culver Studios here soon. And but regarding the IP, I think it's really important that when you have the kinds of IP that exists at MGM and it exists other places, you have to handle reimagining that IP with care. And you have to have, you know, and I think both for the IP itself, but consumers aren't looking necessarily just for a remake of something. So if you're going to do things, we think you have to do it with a different angle, a different take, and it has to be good for audiences. So, you know, that's kind of how we've approached everything. While Mr. and Mrs. Smith is a great show, it had 17 Emmy Award nominations this year. It's existing IP, but Donald Glover came in with a completely different take on the franchise, and we're excited about what the future of that one will be too.
What's the future of Rings of Power? Talking of
Rings of Power is doing great. We're really excited. We just had the finale. Just watching the numbers over the weekend, people are binging it now because we released it weekly. It's exciting, and I think we're going to have a lot of Rings of Power to come.
Okay, good. Good news coming for many who want the season 3. Let's talk about originals a little bit more, therefore, and your commitment. Like, what pace are you churning these things out at the moment, and how does this ultimately allow you to be standalone profitable? I know that's Andy Jass's aim.
Yeah, Andy, you know, Andy said that publicly a bunch of times. He's not wrong. We're going to get there, and I think we were talking about advertising. That's going to obviously be a catalyst towards that. But mainly what we wanted is to have a model, a business model with Prime and advertising and all the other lines of business that we have that is viable in and of itself and economically profitable for Amazon, and that's going to happen.
When?
Very soon.
What's very soon? 6 months very soon? A year very soon?
But ultimately, it's obviously to drop to the bottom line.
Is it a year?
So we'll have that profitability, but it's mainly to what they say. They say answer the question you want to answer.
Yes. Good training.
But mainly, it's because we want to invest more. And so what I think that what's really exciting is that with the additional revenues that we're generating, we're pouring it back in. You know, I don't know that we would have done the NBA, for example, if we weren't doing advertising. And I know that we wouldn't be making as much programming over the next couple of years as we're going to if it weren't for these new revenue streams. And so our intent is to put this back into the programming, back into the business, so that we can drive more consumer adoption to our services and really for the consumer. So we're excited about all of those things.
When you think of a consumer who's suddenly inundated with a whole wealth of content they can never hope to watch, how are you serving it to them? I think of Amazon, I immediately think of artificial intelligence. I mean, is that the way that you lean into a consumer experience right now?
Well, you know, when I was talking about this first stop entertainment service that we're building, you know, we have a lot of programming. We have more content on our app than any other app out there when you include all of our partners, the TVOD catalog, Prime. And so recommendations, personalization is a hard challenge for everyone. It's really hard when you have all the brands that we have. And so we reimagined our user interface, and we launched a new user interface a few months ago. It's working really well. It's leaning into partners. But the personalization piece, we've made a lot of strides on. I actually think from an entertainment streaming standpoint, generative AI, is really going to be meaningful for personalization and recommendations, because the connections that you can make between pieces of programming, movies, TV shows, et cetera, and consumer behavior is much easier to do the millions of times a minute you have to do it around the world in an app like ours. And so that's, I think, for us, going to be the big consumer-facing aha moment. I don't know that it'll be like, all of a sudden people go, oh gosh, they have better personalization, but it's going to happen, and you're going to see it over the next year or so as we adopt it.
That's a lot of tech investment. I imagine the sheer infrastructure investment you've had to put in to carry live event sports is extraordinary. Are you going to lean ever more into live events? Are there going to be these tentpole moments?
Yeah, well, one of the things that I found when I started in a couple weeks before the pandemic, so not that long ago really, is that the company had done a lot of investing, mostly in Europe, on live streaming. If you go back to like 2018, 2019, it wasn't obvious that you were going to be able to stream premium sports at scale exclusively anywhere in the world. People would say it would break, it won't work. And so they had done a really good job of the infrastructure investment, working with AWS. I won't get into all the technical specifics there, but they proved it out. And I think the fact that the company had made that investment paved the way for us to do a deal with the NFL and then ultimately the NBA. And so I look at that as a pretty big advantage for us that we've got that investment and we're able to do it. I think leagues have come to trust us that we're going to be able to do it in a way that's a great experience for customers and represents their sport really well. So it's definitely something we're going to lean into.
So it sounds like you're leaning into everything. Am I right?
Well, we do talk a lot about prioritization. So you really can't be all things to all people. But I think, we're Amazon and we want to be a lot of things to a lot of people. So it does mean that we're doing a lot of different, covering a lot of ground. Because consumers, we have, like I said, hundreds of millions of consumers around the world accessing our app, using it. Everyone's different. Everyone's got different tastes. And so if you're gonna be successful in a business like this, you can't be that narrow. You actually have to be broad. And so, I like to say we're sort of a broadcast network on steroids, or it's 5-dimensional chess to try to figure out what does everybody in this room want to watch tonight, right? Everyone's got a different set of tastes and behaviors and things they want to watch.
Yeah.
And so it's an exciting part of the business, and I think we're probably in like the first or second inning of that journey, but we're getting better every year at it.
What's your taste? What's the one thing you love, the best thing you've ever commissioned or loved to watch?
Oh gosh, I think the first thing not the first thing, but the first big commissioning show stuttering all of a sudden. The first thing that we commissioned when I was at Hulu that was big was The Handmaid's Tale, and I'm super proud of that. And I actually get to be on the other side of it because MGM makes The Handmaid's Tale for Hulu. So that was great. I think in terms of what my tastes are, I like a lot of TV and movies. There's not a lot of things I don't like, but things that I'm really into right now, I guess, is that kind of...
Or tell us one thing on the slate that you're excited about.
Oh, on the slate coming? Well, I'll give you two. The first one is Red One, big movie we're launching in about a month.
I just watched the ad for it.
Dwayne Johnson, Chris Evans. It's really good. I've seen it half a dozen times. It's exciting. I think it can be a real franchise for us. And then we're reimagining the Alex Cross. Anybody see the Alex Cross character? So we have we have Cross coming as well in the fall, and it's really good. And those are the two things I'm really most excited about coming in the fall.
Okay. Well, we're excited to have had you here to talk it through, what you've got on your slate. Thank you for piecing together a very broad and everything.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me.
Store, it would seem. Thank you so
it.
much, Mike. What a joy.
Listen carefully. Can you hear the rhythm in the markets? Not just in the syncopations triggered by inflation, but in the preludes leading to global elections, in the dissonance that moves the Nikkei, and the rising course conducted by AI. There's music in the markets, and if you want to learn to listen for it, we'll show you how.
Please welcome to the stage Ali Rivera, head of multi-genre and live music at YouTube, and country singer and songwriter Cece, for a conversation with Bloomberg's Shartia Brantley.
Hello. Good evening.
Hi. Hi.
Great to see you both and excited to have this opportunity to learn more about YouTube's Foundry program. Ali, can you kick things off? Can you provide an overview of Foundry and what specifically are you guys doing to support artists such as Cece?
Yeah, first of all, I have to say I'm honored to be here opening for Snoop Dogg. I know why you're here. But yeah, I'll tell a quick story. Foundry actually started about 10 years ago because me and the team were sending around videos of these incredible developing artists that were like doing covers and just like we wanted a way to get in touch with them. And we figured out like, hey, let's start this program. It's changed a lot over the years, but we built a program about 10 years ago, and one of the first artists in our program was actually Dua Lipa, which is very crazy to see her now. But I'd say the program was built because it can be hard to be a developing artist on YouTube. There's a lot of content, a lot of artists, a lot of noise. So at a basic level, we are there in service of helping an artist break through the noise I'd say we have a lot of very passionate people on our music team that are devoted to indie artists, and we are always sending around looking for the like hippest, buzziest artists around. So I think we do a pretty good job of finding those artists. We're very diverse in what we do, and the goal is really to help an artist like better navigate our platform, build their career on their own terms, and get to that next phase of their career. I'll say one more thing and then I'll pass it. A few of our artists that are in our program this year, Tommy Richmond, Cash Cobain, Suki Waterhouse, and of course, new to our program, CeCe Frey.
That's right, guys. And congratulations on being selected for the program. Can you share a little bit about your journey and what are you expecting out of this program and this opportunity?
Honestly, this is really a full circle moment for me being a Foundry artist. I think one of my first experiences was more years ago than I care to admit, was putting my own videos of cover songs on YouTube. And that was my first time really being seen by masses of people. And now to be a Foundry artist and using the platform to really marry the visual and create a world for my music to live in. All those years ago, that was really the beginning of my dedication to making sure that the visual really stood with the music and really created a world for my listeners and my audience to live in whenever they hear the music.
And with that, as we know, Allie, exposure is everything. So how are you assisting CeCe and the other artists with getting access to opportunities such as Coachella, for example?
Oh, the Coachella. Well, I would say at a basic level, Coachella is sort of like the unicorn here. But we provide Foundry artists with just access to our teams, our artists and label teams, our experts, and we're really teaching them the platform on a very basic level. Like, we want them to be experts on our platform. We do a lot in terms of marketing support and opportunities across Google and YouTube that you wouldn't have access to if you were not Foundry. And I would say across the entire company, people look to us in the Foundry program like, who's poppin', who do I want to work with? Like, tell us your list because we want to work with them. So it's an ongoing badge, I think, that you wear. Like, we have our alumni that we've been working with for the last 10 years, and they're all still part of our YouTube fam. Do you want me to talk about Coachella specifically? I would say Coachella is like the Foundry at the highest scale. And I think the people at Golden Voice do a lot of what we do with Foundry. They put developing artists on their roster, and they take chances on them. And so you see that when people get the lineup and they go, I don't know half of these people, but they're like us taking a chance on some artists that we believe in. And we've been really lucky to see, I work on Coachella, and we've been lucky to see several of our Foundry artists make it onto the stage. It's an aspirational part of it, but it's just one part.
We're short on time, so we must wrap shortly. But CeCe, what's next for you? You are a visual artist. I watched your video, Cowboy Cry, and it is just stunning, the visual. So you're multi-talented. You design your own outfits, you produce your own videos. So what's next?
I mean, we have more music coming, so I cannot wait for you guys to hear what I have next. On October 25th, I'm dropping my next single. It's called All Boots. You guys will hear it tonight, so I'm very excited to play it.
Oh, yeah.
And honestly, thank you so much. I'm just so excited to continue working with YouTube and just seeing what amazing things that we can do together and really utilize the platform to be a visual artist. There's no better place to do it.
Wonderful. We must leave it there. And she's right. She's performing during the after party, so please stick around. Thank you both so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Hey! Movement for your much drama in party. It's kind of hard being the HORSE. You just take the whole thing. Hold on, cuz. Hold on, Mouth.
I'm actually trying.
I'm from the hood, cuz.
Escargot.
Oh, hell no.
He's that.
Oh, man, it's Bill.
He's such a wimp.
Give me that. No, I need that. Nope, over here. Nope, over there. What about over there? Nope, what about there? KD, what's happening with it?
What's up with it?
Good. They gave me a 2-game contract. Man, I am the player.
Wingspan, lung power.
You just described me. You said wingspan, lung power. I definitely have great lung power.
Please welcome to the stage the one and only Snoop Dogg for a conversation with Bloomberg's Lucas Shaw.
Right there. Thank you for doing this.
Squack alike.
I'm just doing my best not to check the Dodgers score. That's my. We just saw the teaser from the Olympics. I'm curious, how did the opportunity to do the Olympics come about, and how did you prepare for it?
I believe the prior Olympics, me and Kevin Hart, we was doing something where we had like a highlight show that was after the actual events, and it did well. And I believe the people at NBC and what I could do. So we had a conversation about moving into the actual Olympics and being there and physically showing up and, you know, letting me be a part of the production as far as producing certain elements of the Olympics. And I think it went well, you know what I'm saying? Because we was trying to represent peace and love and just show what an American really looks like outside of politics.
Were there, you mentioned producing, were there particular segments that you produced? Like when you and Martha there are talking?
Oh yeah, that's every time you see me on the screen, we was producing it.
Okay.
And NBC was, and the Olympics was willing to allow us to bring our flavor to the table and not try to keep us in a box and let us, you know, season the meat.
Was there a sport that ended up being your big surprise, your favorite to watch?
Actually, fencing was fun to watch. I always loved swimming and gymnastics, but to see gymnastics up close and personal and to see how high they was jumping, and I mean, it's real intense.
I'm curious, you do the Olympics. I feel like I see you in a commercial every 5 minutes. When you started your career, right, there were a lot of people who thought gangster rap was bad for society. They were wrong, but we'll leave that aside. Did you ever think you'd become one of the most in-demand spokespeople for different companies in this country?
Yes and no. Yes, because I always believed in me, and I always thought that if you give opportunity, we're going to make the most of it. But no, because at the time when I was entering into the music industry, it was only certain things we could do. It was certain things that wasn't legal, that are legal now.
Do you feel, I mean, you're obviously joking a little bit, but do you feel like growing acceptance of weed has kind of smoothed the path for you and made you kind of more presentable for companies?
I think it's the medical side of it is being brought forward a lot. You know, usually when medical is the first word, then you have more understanding. Because I've had people in my family who dealt with cancer and certain, you know, illnesses, and cannabis and THC has helped them, you know, ease the pain and have a smooth transition. So it's like, and then I look at my career and look at me and look at what I look like. And I look at some people in the industry and what they look like. And maybe they do alcohol and this and that and the other, but I do weed and I look like this. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like 31 years later.
You have a new album coming out, what, a month from now, give or take?
Yeah, new album is called Missionary.
What's the story behind it?
First album, well, me and Dr. Dre made an album in 1993 called Doggy Style. So if you flip the page, there's an...
This is your... when's the last time because he's a major producer on the album, right?
He's producing the whole album.
Whole album. When is the last time he did that with you?
1993 was the last time he produced the whole Snoop Dogg album. So this is sort of kind of a reunion, and it's a collaboration of two friends who genuinely love each other, and we know we're better together. It's like I can make good music, but when I'm with Dr. Dre, I make great music.
And give it up. How did you decide after all the time that you guys wanted to work together in that way again?
Me personally, he called me and was like, I want to do your record. I need 2 weeks. I'm like, I know this shit mean like 2 years.
Yeah. Every Dre album, you're waiting 5, 7 years for.
But in my mind, I made up that I'm going to go back to being Snoop Doggy Dogg. I want to be the student, the kid, the passenger. I want to humble myself and go in the studio with him and allow him to, you know, work on me and tell me what I need to do and produce me, and not me try to fight him and think that, oh, I'm a star now, I can tell you what I think is best for me. No. You discovered me. You seen me when I was a rock. You created this diamond, so I'm going to allow you to shine it one more time.
You've worked with a lot of great producers over your career. I'm curious, how would you compare working with Dre to working with someone like Pharrell, you worked with on some albums about 20 years ago?
Well, when I work with Pharrell, me and Pharrell's relationship is more like friends. So when you're working with your friend, he's more easier to let me get away with things. You know, like, oh, that was dope. That was dope. Dr. Dre be like, nah, do that again. No, you said, it was too hard on your P's, huh? You were supposed to say player, you said player. Are you serious? Enunciation, pronunciation with Dr. Dre is everything. With Pharrell, he likes slang, he likes raw, he likes the uncut Snoop Dogg where it's not as polished. You know what I'm saying? Like that's, his threshold is to have the raw version of Snoop Dogg. Dre is to have the perfection version of Snoop Dogg.
Yeah, I'm curious, you described with Pharrell it's like friends. It's not like that with Dre?
No, Dre is like big brother, like it's a different relationship. Like big brother and friend is two different things. Like your friend wouldn't say certain things to you because he's your friend. Your big brother don't give a fuck.
I've seen you talk a lot in the press about how and a lot of artists say this, like they don't make that much money from streaming, right? That you make money from other ways, but you still chose to buy a record label. Mm-hmm. Obviously, a lot of emotional resonance for you with Death Row. I'm wondering, how did you make the decision to buy it? And now that you've had it for a little while, what are you planning to do with it?
The purchase was made solely to get my masters back initially. And then once I got my masters back, I started thinking about the other artists that was on the label and the legacy and the things that we created and how this was one of the most predominant black-owned hip-hop labels of the 90s. And I had a chance to get it back in my hands and to clean it up and to fix some things that was wrong and to put it in positions it never been in, to give it a global approach and to make it friendly and approachable and to make it, you know, lovable and likable and, you know, make people feel like Death Row is a nice place to be for making great music and not, you know, it sounds funny now because you think about the myth of you could get fucked up on Death Row. You can get your ass beat. You can get your jewelry took. All the negative stereotypes you could have was always there. Now it's like Death Row is happiness, it's fun, it's cool. And it's because of the things that I did as the owner. And shit runs downhill from the top. So if you write from up top, everything else is gonna flow right. And the spirit of me is in my company, and everybody in my company is about peace, love, and pushing this label to a whole nother level.
How many employees do you have?
Probably about 35.
And they're mostly working on that, or they're working on all things Snoop?
They're working on Death Row only. Death Row for Death Row, but then I got management that handles Snoop Dogg as well. And then I got like me, myself, who is the Snoop Dogg machine, so it's like, you know what I'm saying? So I have to thank myself sometimes because I'm the actual machine.
You know, one way artists such as yourself make a lot of money these days is touring. I feel, and I could be wrong, I feel like I don't see you doing sort of the big global tours that people like Michael Rapino are booking. When's the last time you went on a big tour?
It's records involved when it comes to big tours like that. You got to have a record.
Yeah.
I'm able to go on tour just because of the catalog that I have.
Yeah.
But this new record, Missionary, is going to put me in a position to probably have that final big stadium tour, because there's a lot of features on this record that, you know, I'm excited about. that are big name artists. I don't know if I can say it right now, but fuck it, I'm gonna say it anyway. It's my album. I got a feature from Jelly Roll and Sting. Yeah, and I'm so happy that me and Sting got a record that's so good, and we hung out and we chilled. It's like a child that's infatuated with somebody as a singer, and you get a chance to meet them, and they give you everything that you expected. Like, that's what happens with me all the time. I meet people that I've always wanted to meet, and they're everything I wanted them to be. I don't meet assholes. I don't meet people that disappoint me. I meet people that always, you know, outwork the contract.
Who's someone you haven't met yet that you really want to meet?
Michael Jordan.
You haven't met Michael Jordan?
Mm.
That seems crazy. You guys
I
are
know,
both
right?
such icons of the 90s.
Mike, where you at?
But he can't be your favorite basketball player.
That's Magic Johnson.
Yeah, okay. Just making sure this is a Laker household.
You better know it.
Yeah.
in case you forgot, Dad is.
Yeah.
He goes with me everywhere I go.
Yeah. This has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but I have to ask how you feel about the Lakers this season.
I feel good about the Lakers. It's a family business, so, you know, I'm going to leave it at that.
Okay. You brought up some collaboration, so I'm curious. I do want to test out one of we're doing polls during some of these conversations. We can ask the audience what they think. I hope I didn't screw this up, but which of these people do you think Snoop should collaborate with next? And I guess I should ask you after we get the results, because you'll just skew. And
I already know what they're going to say.
What do you think they're going to say?
SZA.
Why do you think they're going to say that?
Is she from the West? And she the shit? She don't need me?
I'll wait to see what the results are in a little bit, but I'm curious, you know, you look at your recent discography. You've released, I think, a Bollywood song, a reggae album, a gospel album. You've done a bunch of different genres. Is there any genre you haven't tried that is, because it feels like this next one you're doing is sort of back in your sweet spot.
Jazz. I did a jazz album that I haven't released yet. It's more or less like spoken word over jazz music. That was a genre that I've always wanted to go into. Quincy Jones hit me to Mr. Mumbles, Clark Terry, which was his teacher. And we had an opportunity to spend time with Mr. Terry, and we did a record together. And that was a genre that I always wanted to venture into, because I felt like I had a jazz voice. I felt like my spirit was like one of those jazz musicians from back in the day. So I dibbled and dabbled into that.
So your role in a jazz album is just you're singing?
No, I'm spoken word.
Or spoken, sorry.
My voice and my conversation, my poetry, you know.
Flowetry. I think
exactly.
You're right. SZA's got the win, but it's close. Bad Bunny and Sabrina Carpenter.
Bad Bunny, my homie in real life, though, so they already know that that's an easy collaboration. And then.
But he's not on the new album.
No. I didn't go to Latina.
If you met someone who had never heard your music before, where would you tell them to start?
It depends on how old are
they? I'm assuming the only type of person who'd never heard your music before is probably under 18.
No, I got kids' music, Doggyland, #1 albums right now.
And a kid's show, right?
I have a song called Affirmations, right? It's a song that we created, and they teach this song in different elementary schools around the whole world. Before the school starts, the students sing this song about affirmation. So I got records that reach a demographic of babies, because I have grandkids and they wasn't paying attention to me. So I have.
Okay, so is there a demographic you feel like that doesn't know you then? How are you doing with the 75 plus?
Martha, you mean Martha Stewart's homegirl? We got this thing covered, don't we? Don't trip.
I want to ask you a core hip hop question. So I saw an interview earlier this year where Tyler, the Creator, was talking, and he was kind of upset because he felt like every rapper right now sounds the same, and that when he was coming up, everyone had a different sound. When you were coming up, there were a bunch of different sounds. Do you agree with that? Like, where do you think hip hop's at right now?
It's about to reset. The whole music industry is about to reset itself. It usually happens like that, you know. Repetition, breakthrough, originality, we back on again.
Yeah.
that's what the music industry is about. You know, right now, talent is not at the foreground, but talent will be put back into the foreground.
Why do you feel like talent's not?
Because it's so easy to make music. You can go Instagram, Snapchat, this, that, 15 seconds of fame. You can, I'm a star, I'm this, I'm that. I got followers, I got likes. Them motherfuckers ain't following you. But you know, you got that philosophy that you could be a star. When I came up, you had to have conversation. You had to have showmanship. You had to have, you know, you had to rap through the microphone. Like, not play the song and rap over the song. You had to, like, I want to hear you just like I heard you on the record. I need to hear you on stage, and I believe that element has been taken out, but it will be, you know, reinstated.
Yeah. Who do you have people coming up who you feel like will be a part of that?
There's a lot of people making great music right now, and they should be, you know, commended, but there's so many to name. And a lot of times the bad rap is always the ones who don't do it right, but there are people who are doing it correctly, and the music industry is going to continue to, you know, be diversified, and it's going to continue to reach different parts of the world. I didn't think hip-hop would be in Africa, Japan, and Turkey, and India, but it's there, and it's loved and it's respected, so it's going to continue to grow.
I'll ask you one more West Coast question, since I know the answer. Where did you land on the Kendrick Drake beef?
Where did I land?
Yeah. What did you make of it?
I was in the sky smoking weed. That's where I landed, you know what I'm saying? Because, like, when grown men have, you know, situations as another grown man, it's your job to get out their motherfucking way and let them handle their business, you know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, they both my nephews, so whatever misunderstanding or disagreement that they have, I'm pretty sure they could get an understanding without Uncle Snoop getting involved.
Okay. I got to finish where we started. So you did the Olympics. I've heard you talk over the years about your desire to be part of the broadcast booth for a Super Bowl, because you're a huge football fan. Did you take a moment in Paris to talk to the NBC folks and put in a pitch for the Super Bowl?
Let him get that call real quick. You good? Nah, my grandmother always told me, let your work speak for you. Like, so it shouldn't be about me having to converse and talk to nobody. My work speaks for me. Like, I think that when I'm in front of the microphone, no matter what sport it is, whatever the event is, I'm gonna give you something you've never seen before. I'm gonna say things in an appropriate manner. I know how to clean things up in broadcast. You know, if you see the Olympics was rated G.
Yeah, it was great.
It was rated motherfucking G, and I was able to keep it G the whole way. And that was one of the main concerns that I'm pretty sure that NBC had. I hope this motherfucker don't say that on TV. And I kept it, you know what I'm saying?
They trusted you enough to put you on broadcast. I feel like they put Alex Cooper on the online stream. They did.
It was gravy, though, because my mother told me, you know what I'm saying, when you get opportunities, son, make the most of it, because you never know who's watching.
Yeah. Well, Snoop, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you, Lopez. Appreciate it. That shit was dope.
Don't go anywhere just yet. A couple of things, I promise, although if you're rushing to take a photo of Snoop Dogg, I guess I can't stop you. I want to thank our sponsors again. Presenting sponsor, AWS. Participating sponsor, Disney Entertainment. Our entertainment partners, YouTube Foundry, Creative Futures Collective, Empire, Letterboxd. For tomorrow, we're going to get started around 8:30 with breakfast, if you want that. I will be taping a live episode of The Town on the studio stage over there around 9. Our curator session starts back there at 9:15. We've got a bunch of those throughout the day. And then we'll meet back here at 10 o'clock where I will interview the chairman and CEO of Comcast, Brian Roberts. But for now, let's have some fun. We've got some great food, drinks outside, Kuya Lord, Wanderlust, Kogi, the Wanderlust Ube Malted Crunch would be my recommendation, and a live performance from Cece. So thanks so much.
Baby,